Okay. That should be good.
Well, I was actually in here at 11. Had you set up?
Oh,
Stayed until 11:30. Mark used a no-show because you're down for 11.
sorry.
It's
Well,
okay.
we tried to set up.
It's okay. I'll get you going
I was gonna say, people just
again.
confirmed,
So,
got somebody on there now.
okay, I showed you had a different meeting ID. We had
Okay.
3 events, right? So let me, well, it was a series, not
Okay.
today. Get back to it. So this is Accords, right?
Mhm.
And then I showed you have 10/28, 11/11. So I set
Okay.
up this meeting ID earlier. Is this the one you're on?
Yes, that is the number I
Okay.
typed in.
The 959,
Yep.
okay?
Logged in under me up here. Just fine, I guess, because it let me still log in so I can read the chat over here.
Sharing contact, you get you. Toolbar over. That's the screen we're
That's
doing right now.
which,
Yeah,
that's sharing.
yeah. So let me make sure we're sharing sound. And let's get Hike's toolbar. If you need to see that toolbar, again, just hit escape.
Okay.
And then as far as your PowerPoint. There is, why Zoom. Generally. I'm just looking at something, it's
Yeah,
working
yeah, yeah.
fine. Make sure that you hear what you're saying.
I did.
Check.
Looking for if she can hear us
Okay.
elsewhere, so.
You don't need to see people on the call, you just hear them, they chime in.
Yeah, yes.
Hey, you're up.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks for popping.
And
up here.
I'll reach out to Aaron, scheduling to see why you were an hour or half hour early
Okay.
on the calendar.
Because our event starts at noon, so we usually book for.
Yeah, it should be
half an hour before
11:30.
that.
Yeah, they had you down for 11 AM. That's
Okay.
what, so I was here for
Yeah.
11:30. I'll find out
Oh,
why.
well, thank you for
Yeah.
coming back over. I
Yeah.
really appreciate it. Sorry about that. I'll just put that there. Thank you. Coming. I'm upstairs. I'll be right there. Well. That's better than no response. This is. When we have to be out of our building, this ends up being talking to us.
Hello.
Hi, good to see you.
Everyone.
Jack just walked out the door. Everything should be set up. Ready
Great.
to go. Whenever.
Sorry, this is so scary. I was literally up in the floor above on a Zoom meeting, but none of these Zoom meetings have any moving time in between them.
Yes.
But I'm ready to go.
All right.
Delighted to have you.
Well, I'll get you started in just a minute. We just hit the everybody logging into a new thing.
Oh,
So
Great,
you
great.
can take a minute and breathe. Caitlin's got water up here for you. And as we talked about, the hazards of being outside of our normal space is you just talk to us. But we do have people
Awesome.
starting to log in, so yeah.
I did a very similar one in this exact room, I think. Maybe they booked these in the same room on purpose, but again, it was 200 people online and talking to 4 people in person.
Well, we promised to be engaged.
Well, you will get to talk to the avatar. They will be stuck on.
There we go. Cool. Caitlin, the other thing I was thinking is we need to put together a full in-person kit that includes a doorstop. Because I feel like part of especially this room, it's better in HSB, but they're all closed off. And doors kind of big barrier.
Right,
So
yes.
having a big sign up there with seminar here and the door actually dropped open helps with some communication.
Since you said you've presented in this room before, you probably already know it. There's the camera.
Yes.
Way back there.
Hmm.
Great, thank you, everybody online. I know I see people logging in and we will get started in just a minute. We'll give that 2-minute grace for everybody to get settled. Just need to start hosting everything in Rocky Mountain. Small, but. Do our spiel.
Sure.
Good morning, everybody, or I guess afternoon now. Welcome, I'm Sarah Brewer. I direct the education program as part of our Teams core at Accords, which is our training, education, and mentorship core. I want to welcome you all for today's seminar. For those of you who are not familiar, just a little bit about Accords. This is supported by the University of Colorado School of Medicine and Children's Hospital Colorado. It's a unique one-stop shop environment for faculty who are conducting pragmatic research to receive various types of services and support for their grants and projects, along with incredible mentorship, training, and education in health services research. Accords conducts pragmatic research in real-world settings and seeks to improve healthcare and outcomes by providing some of these wonderful services. So our multidisciplinary collaborative research environment, strong methodological cores and programs, consultations, mentorship, training, and support, and extensive educational offerings like this seminar. I do want to point out among our methodological cores and programs, we are partnered really closely with our mHealth and informatics core. So thank you, Susan Moore, for all of your partnership on pulling the series together. A few things just for those of you looking to add to your calendar. Coming up, we are launching our Transforming and Advancing a Learning Health System series on December 4th. And December 9th, we will hear from Annie Collier in the 4th in this series on emerging topics in digital health and clinical informatics. Then I want to share big news. We have a new workshop this academic year, and in February, we'll be hosting the Pragmatic Research Planning Workshop, and that registration is now live on our webpage. So we hope to see some of you applying to come join us and plan some pragmatic research studies. And then lastly, our Colorado Pragmatic Research and Health Conference is scheduled for June 4th and 5th this year. I'm really excited to be exploring multidisciplinary teams for innovation and impact. And then lastly, before I hand over the mic, just a couple of housekeeping items for those of you who are on Zoom, which are many of you today. Please use the chat and the Q&A functions throughout. We'll be watching that, and we'll have some time for Q&A at the end of the hour. And then for everyone, please take a minute to fill out our evaluations because it really helps us to figure out how to best meet all of your needs with our educational offerings over the coming year. All right, I am really excited to introduce Clint Carlson today as part of our Emerging Topics in Digital Health and Clinical Informatics. Dr. Carlson is a leader in technology innovation and holistic communication management. His focus is on capacity building as rooted in a passion for lifelong learning, teaching, and enabling others. At the core of his work is a deep-seated belief in the transformative power of technology, fueling endeavors to cultivate learning cultures steeped in self-efficacy, community, and collaboration. Through innovative approaches and cutting-edge design technology, he endeavors to create communities where everyone embarks on a shared journey of learning and growth. His focus is on the power of technical capacity building, and it reflects those he works with exponentially, and is amplified by his digital humanitarianism, helping those who help others to provide lasting good. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Carlson today as he presents emerging topics in digital health and clinical informatics. Welcome.
Well, hi, thanks so much. Thanks everybody joining, wherever you're joining from. Great to see you this afternoon or wherever your time zone may be. I've got a confession before I begin. This presentation is a little experimental. The technology has gone under a massive upgrade just in the last week. And I peppered that into this presentation, but some of these pieces are brand new. Last week, I gave a late presentation and I was calling this zero-day technology just because it is so emerging and so brand new. It's very exciting. So hang with me as I get a little excited about it. I'll show you a little bit about how this works as we pepper it through. So this is going to be kind of a presentation on what we've been building the last couple of years, but really exciting and now more than ever where this technology is going. So before we begin anything, I want to introduce you to a brand new friend of mine.
Hello, friends. I'm Vicky, one of many interactive AI avatar being developed by Clint Carlson. I am a combination of the latest AI tools merging video generation, real-time voice conversations, and advanced prompt engineering on large language models. I'm here to demonstrate how avatar simulations, dynamically driven by live artificial intelligence, can make learning more engaging, interactive, and fun. Together, we can explore any content, role-play different scenarios, and practice new skills, all in a safe and supportive space. I really look forward to improving education in novel ways. I'm being configured and trained, much like a live actor being directed on a film set by Clint Carlson. Now I'll hand it over to Clint now for this presentation, but I'll be back a bit later in the Future of Avatars section to show some more features, and of course, I'll say goodbye at the end. Take it away, Clint.
Thanks, Vicky. So everybody, that's Vicky. Vicky did not exist a week ago. Vicky is completely artificial intelligence. So there's AI generating her video. There's AI generating her voice. There's AI generating her content in the background. So if I were to prompt her to give that introduction again, it would be different because she would generate it in real time differently, just like we all would. It's a really interesting Venn diagram of these technologies overlapping onto each other. And we'll get more into Vicky in a little bit. But another Venn diagram before then. A little bit about me. You heard it in the introduction, but I am a Venn diagram of where education, technology, and public health overlap. So I've done tons of work inside of international schools all around the planet, but also working heavily within organizations like the World Health Organization and NGO nonprofits, really to build capacity and make sure that people are using technology in ways that kind of promotes what they do best. And from my perspective, that's about lifelong learning and public health to help our communities. So we initially created this avatar system a couple of years ago when I joined the CU system. I moved here from Istanbul during the pandemic, which was a nightmare of a story. But I was very thrilled to get here and start building out these avatars as ways of better connecting how we communicate with patients and how we build those relationships. I was hearing time and time again, there are all of these stories about people who have a bad experience when they go to a foot doctor when they're 20 years old, and they carry that bad experience with them across their entire lifespan. Always kind of uncertain, unsure, feeling uneasy about public health and all the stuff that comes along with it. So we really wanted to improve those communications, and we found a way of doing that through simulation. We're able to do this in very customizable, personal, complex scenes, very tailored towards individual conversations. And as you go through these conversations, you don't have the same conversation twice. So really, we're building a lot of confidence to have improvisational conversations across a whole range of topics, public health or not. We initially created these as sort of a stopgap, looking at the COVID response and how we need to train this type of soft skill remotely and through COVID and those types of pieces. And we quickly found that this is a problem everywhere. That soft skills and how we communicate with each other are needed across every industry, not just public health. So what you're going to see here and what we've been building here could easily transfer to training of people to work the front desk of a hotel or anything that involves some sort of customer interface. So you get the idea. These avatars are for everybody. And we really wanted this to be a safe space for learning. Part of education is making mistakes, growing from those mistakes, not getting your career canceled because you made a critical mistake. So to be able to simulate this is really, really powerful. And this allows for people to come into our simulations and not just express what they want to say, but have these avatars respond back with their tone of voice, with their body posture, their facial expressions. They're changing through emotions as they're reacting to what you're saying to them. And again, all in the safe space. Time and time again, we have people that come into these simulations and find the value of making a mistake that they would never make in front of a live person, but wanting to tease out, well, what happens if I were to make that mistake? This is our Brady Bunch wall of avatars. So this is the dozens that we've been creating over in the Department of Psychiatry and across the campus. You've got 2 pages of this. And they're all different scenarios, all different kinds of conversations, from pediatric substance abuse to de-escalation techniques in a hospital system, to having conversations with parents at the school level about vaccine hesitancy. I mean, we've got quite a wall that span all of these pieces. And you're welcome to visit all of these. All of these are hosted right now at xr.cuonshoots.edu. You can go to this webpage, and there are dozens of the avatars that we've built. And you can hop into these conversations and tease out any of these. And you'll find that as you go into them, unless you're very deliberately trying to make the same decisions every single time you go through these, you're going to get a different experience each time. And you can play along with this. You know that it's gamified, you know that the stakes are low, so you can make a decision that you would never make in real life and kind of tease out, well, what would happen. And the value of that is really getting powerful, because there is value into making mistakes and seeing why those mistakes were there, but also teasing out, well, what would happen if I were to do that? And if so, is that the end of the world? Is that the end of this relationship with this patient? Certainly not. A lot of times these mistakes dig you into a hole on purpose to see, can you still salvage the relationship and build something healthy out of all of this? So let's look at a couple of examples. This is Maria. So this is through the motivational interviewing process with the Behavioral Health and Wellness Program. This is stage 1 of motivational interviewing, engaging, which is really, really useful for this type of avatar development because it is so scripted, and how you move through the motivational interviewing process is very deliberate and specific to get your patient to really come to their own understanding of how they need to be self-motivated to make change. And we can take a quick look. You see the choices on the left side of what we can say to the avatar, immediate formative
They
feedback.
are counting on me, and I am going to fail.
And Maria here is at one part of the conversation where she sort of turns the corner and sees that she needs to make change for herself, not for herself, but for the health of her children who she's raising on her own.
I have to take care of myself in order to take care of them. We only have each other.
But this requires a lot of practice. To get her to this point requires a conversation that is deliberate and specifically tailored in a certain pathway. And if you don't follow that pathway, you'll find lots of ways that will send you back a couple of steps to retry this until you get it down. Let's take a look at a little more of a high stakes piece. This is de-escalation techniques. We built this with the Denver Hospital Health System. And here he comes. Your task is
You
to
can't hold me here
de-escalate.
against my will. It's a violation of my civil liberties. I have the right to a cigarette. Damn it. Of course I'm upset. I don't need to be in the hospital, and you need to let me out of here right now.
So poor Mr. Smith, very, very upset, continues to get upset depending on what you say to
If you don't get out of this room right now, I'm going to punch you.
until he will threaten you with violence, and he will also swear at you in other pieces. One thing we found in building out Mr. Smith was that he starts out angry, right? A lot of our avatars are in a neutral state, and depending what you say to them, they come and go with joy or displeasure or indecision. Mr. Smith is upset. He's been detained at the hospital, doesn't fully understand why or what he needs to do to get out of there. And there are all kinds of hospital employees that need to be in a position to de-escalate this situation. So this is a training module for a variety of public health officials in the hospital system. One thing that we found that was really fun about Mr. Smith was because he comes in so angry, because he threatens to punch you, because he'll swear at you, the students thought that was a lot of fun. And sure enough, as we got more and more students and trainees into this, we were finding that people could not fail this fast enough because they wanted to see if they could get this anger to threaten to punch them in the effing face. Well, we use that as a learning opportunity. It's like, all right, well, if you're going to dig yourself into a hole, we're not going to leave you there. Can you salvage this relationship and get yourself out there? And sure enough, that gamification brought people into this project over and over and over. And one thing that I love about education is when people are secretly educating. When students are learning without realizing they're learning, because they're engaged, they're having fun, they don't necessarily connect it to a curriculum, they're just having a good time and learning as they go. And we built that in there, and students were doing it repeat, repeat, repeat. Well, then we switched it up a little bit. And instead of him threatening you with violence, he will now refuse to talk to you and only wants to see a real doctor. Well, now we got an emotional response from these students who hate being told that they're real doctors. And now they're emotionally reacting to this avatar back and forth as we build this up. We brought this to a couple of seminars, a couple of conferences. The big one was a specifically de-escalation hospital session, where we brought in this module and allowed people to play with it, and people were blown away. Because they've been reading scripts, they've been watching YouTube videos, but they weren't taking the action and seeing the consequences of those actions, negative or positive. So Mr. Smith was a huge success, even though he is a very, very angry person. There's other pitfalls that we put in here. At one point, he will seem to calm down and like, all right, I'll give you some information, but I'm really not comfortable doing it in this open space with all these people listening. Can we go into a private room and chat? And you may think that's reasonable. But if you isolate yourself with a patient who has threatened to punch you in the face, you have absolutely failed the simulation. We're not going to send you 2 steps back. You need to restart from the beginning. But we're also peppering in resources. Here's why that was inappropriate. Here's what may have happened. So it's not just a binary good, bad, yes, no. It's actually teaching along the way. Take a look at another example. This one's got a translation dynamic as we start dealing with types of patients coming in through our doors. So we've seen that screen. CD is a Cuban migrant. She's here for medical appointments. We choose a greeting.
No entiendo.
Hello. I am her translator. She's having trouble with such a long sentence in English. She would like me to translate for her. Is that okay? She says thank you very much.
Right. So another bump on the road. We jump into this conversation. We're ready to discuss topics with her, and she doesn't speak English. Well, how do we navigate this conversation? So now we've got a translator involved, and now I'm making choices. What am I going to say to this patient that is going to be translated in a way for her to understand? So I need to choose shorter sentences. I need to be careful about what language I'm sending in, making sure that's translated properly, and really slowing things down a little bit. If I try to speed through this conversation with her, she will get lost and flustered, and I will lose this patient relationship. So it's really about the nuances of what makes this relationship different than other patients as we go through these. And we've got others coming up. One that we're really excited about is we just launched this one for veteran health, where this veteran has just come back from combat and is dealing with all kinds of things. The being back into the country, reacclimating to life here in the United States, the pressure going on with his family inside of his household. I mean, he's got a million things going on from a million different angles. And you can have that conversation with him to talk him through all of that through that link right there. And it's also on that XR Anshoot site. I mean, it's another one of our demos coming through. Another big one that we just wrapped up is preparing high school students for advocacy. So through this system, and we've done a study through this, we sent dozens of high schoolers from the state of Colorado through this scenario to practice having a conversation with a resource officer at their school about a rumor of gun violence. Either they've seen something on social media or heard something in the hallway. How do I report this? And this allowed the students to go through these conversations multiple times and understand, what is this conversation going to be like when I go to a resource officer? What kind of confidentiality am I going to expect? How much information are they going to want from me? How useful am I? And again, it's building confidence to be able to go into a school and have a conversation with this individual to report something very, very serious. This was really successful. We do a pre and a post survey on both ends of these. The pre-surveys are, what are your attitudes? How useful do you think a simulation would be for this type of learning, this type of things? And typically the pre-surveys are pretty low. People don't think this is going to be useful, or their expectations aren't where we think they might be. The post surveys are what I take to all the conferences. Because boy, does everybody turn a corner. Wow, this was useful. Wow, I can't believe I was able to run through the scenario multiple times and tease this out. Again, the gamification piece of being able to make a choice that you wouldn't necessarily make and to see how that plays out. Super, super powerful stuff. So this is what we've been building these last couple of years. Sure, there are some pieces that I think can be beefed up. We're certainly getting hyper-realistic avatars built into this, but it's still kind of choose your own adventure. What are these three choices? And then us mapping out how that's going to work. So let's take a little bit look at how this is built in the back end, but it's really us turning a corner into where this technology is going, which is really, really exciting. So where we are going. So thinking about artificial intelligence, I mean, there's a layer of AI over almost everything we do these days, and this is no exception. So for us to have a large language model as the mind and personality behind these avatars is an enormous development. Oh my goodness. By us isolating our own large language models, we can design and prompt engineer and direct these characters to change authentically within our own guideposts, within our own guardrails. And already we're doing this in a certain effect, but not to the way that we started doing it last week. So here's how we currently do it. We build out these workflows. These scripts are not linear scripts with these avatars. It's always you're making these three choices turn into these three choices, and it gets exponential very quickly. But essentially, it's basic like this. We've got that wheel of emotion down in the corner. And we've got our three choices. Each one of them come with a score. This is a correct choice, an incorrect choice, somewhere in the middle. And then what does our avatar respond with, and what is their emotion attached to it? And in this case, once that avatar responds, then we're pumping up a little information box, which is often formative feedback explaining why this was an inappropriate or an appropriate choice to make. This looks simple. I mean, we've got three choices, collapses down to a one feedback thing, goes up to three choices, breaks down. You can see the one critical error, that box in there. But for the most part, it kind of follows a linear path. Our more complex systems don't. They're just very, very complex. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 10 interactions here. By the time you get to that fourth interaction of 3 leading to 3 leading to 3, we've got spaghetti to deal with. So we treat this as one interaction at a time. It is complex, but this builds the richness of these avatar simulations. It's very difficult to play this simulation the same every single time without being very deliberate about it. You've got choices that branch you way up into the front of the conversation to where you get closer, and we've got others that kind of loop you back, and then a lot of pieces in between. So how do we design all of this content? Working with subject matter experts is key to this, but my experience is that they're mostly research writers. They aren't writing hypothetical statements for branching scenarios for patients, and it takes quite a bit of time. So we're speeding this up already with artificial intelligence. We're using Claude. There's a variety of AI kind of mainstream out there, from ChatGPT to Gemini, but Claude seems to be emotional. So we've been using emotional for this script writing. And really the prompt is explaining the project. So this is a social emotional avatar simulation. Can you generate 3 branching scenarios about a Cuban woman named Christina who's approaching menopause? And I give a little background information. She's 45 years old, primarily speaks Spanish. I could be uploading hypothetical medical information. I could be putting in family history, anything that the AI would use to reference and create appropriate responses as this role play. So it creates these 3 branching scenarios. So kind of a top one that is joyful and correct, a bottom one, which is kind of miserable and less correct, and then the middle part, which is where kind of the magic happens. And you can see this happening here. I mean, that top one's got a score of 3. That's the ideal solution. The bottom one's got a -1. And then these branch out into this complexity. But generally, the best choices kind of float along the top, and the worst choices float along the bottom, and they intersect in between. So we're able to develop these scripts and bring them into this whiteboard to visualize them. But this is taking 90% of the work off of my subject matter experts who are just spending a lot of time. Well, what would I say in this position with this background? And I mean, this is getting us a big jump of the way there. And then you're just tweaking language and little pieces like that. But it's more useful than we thought it would be. We thought maybe it would give us a bump start, and give us a template on writing things. And well, this is pretty good, and that's pretty good, and that's correct. And we found that it was really developing this out. So in a lot of ways, we're already using AI to build this up. And then looking at how do we enhance this reality beyond this scripted flow of content in here. We're also looking at how do these patients change over time. I mean, as you're meeting with patients, I mean, certainly they're changing over time, you're changing over time. How do we simulate that? So then we started building in circumstances where weather changes how these avatars appear. So if you're talking to, you'll see an example, depending on when you talk to the avatar, you'll get a different attitude. Day times of the week, upcoming holidays, tax season, a car broken down, a kid got into college, all these things that tweak how we behave over time. And we can look at a quick example. Here's a rainy Monday.
Another dreary Monday. I wonder when this rain will finally let up.
And she's a bummer.
Anyway,
and all of her responses
what
are
are we
going to be
talking about
colored with
today?
this. She's just going to be a dreary Monday rainy person. As opposed to if we spoke to her on a Friday afternoon where it's sunny out.
Isn't it a wonderful, sunny Friday? I sure am looking forward to the weekend. What are you up to this weekend? What would you like to discuss today?
So now we're building new dynamics into this, where yeah, you could have a conversation with her on a Tuesday and have that, and then we could have a similar conversation on a Friday, and it'll be completely different. I mean, the tone will be different, the attitude will be different, the motivations behind getting out of here, because it's Friday afternoon, will be different. This felt powerful, so let's keep building on this a little bit. What if we could build an avatar across their entire lifespan? Like, how does a conversation with an avatar start when they're 15 years old, and now they're 19, and now they're 22, all the way to the end of life? How do these things change? And we're able to simulate that as well. So our 15-year-old.
I really want to tell you what happened to me at the high school homecoming dance last week.
15-year-old stuff to tell you about. Very exciting. But now he's 35.
This new house mortgage is really stressing me out.
And now he's 55.
My oldest child got married last week.
So now we can simulate this, and we can have conversations with your patient at these different milestones in their life. But outside of the simulation, there's rich conversations to be had about how does treatment and rapport and relationships with our patients be part of their holistic health across their entire lifespan. So being able to simulate these milestones allows us to have deeper conversations, both inside of the simulation and then external of it. Here's where stuff gets really exciting. So you see my avatars where you're choosing on the left side, you get those 3 options to choose from. They're not your options. We pre-wrote those for you to choose from, and they've got attachments to them and emotions attached to them. But we're getting really close to where we're just speaking naturally. And this is where slides start becoming outdated as of a week ago. Because we're not just, you're speaking back and forth. And what it's doing is it's converting your voice to a string, looking at that string of text, looking for specific keywords that it can respond to, and it's using kind of that low-level intelligence. But in this tweet from OpenAI, just this last summer, it's the last sentence here that's important. ChatGPT's advanced voice mode can understand and respond with emotions and nonverbal cues, moving us closer to real-time natural conversations. So it's not just the text that you're speaking, it's how you speak it. Like, did you hesitate on the word cancer? Did you, how's your rate of speech going as you're speaking about difficult topics or different pieces in here? This is where it gets really, really powerful, because it's more than about just what you said. It's about how you said it, and the avatar is being able to respond to that. And we add on other data like that. If you're having a conversation with an avatar through your laptop, which most of us are, we've got a webcam that's also tracking your eyeball movement. Are you making eye contact? What does your body posture look like? All these micro mannerisms that are built up how you communicate. Well, now we've got something really powerful that we're building in. Because not only can we communicate with these avatars much more naturally and fluidly, we can also collect kind of a machine learning profile about how you individually communicate. And now we can connect you with a patient who's best receptive to that communication style. So now we're improving connections outside of the simulation itself. The full avatar visual realism is a huge step in where this is going. You've seen our avatars, the ones that were in the past, and they're a little video gaming. And you can certainly tell they're not real people. But these are some incredible projects.
Have you ever had, maybe you're in that place right now where you want to turn your life around, and you know somewhere deep in your soul there could be some decisions that you have to make.
Looks like a live
like
video
it's like
person to me.
something was decided for you,
It's not.
and instead of
The first
trying
thing we
to
need to
make
look at is
something
the
that
If you
is
plan to go
done,
for a run and you don't have enough.
They're all going. And they're all generated just from that one two-dimensional thumbnail you see there in the corner. These are being completely three-dimensional with emotion, with facial expression, with mouths moving and matching voices that were included in there. This is a huge leap. So let's look at how we're applying this to stuff last week. Because again, this is stuff that's very, very new. So here's a new board of avatars. And they look like real people. In a way, they are real people. These were all created by 4 minutes of video of each one of these individuals speaking from a script that took them through a range of emotion, facial expressions, and then that profile was collected and then run through an AI model. And now we've got unlimited avatars that can speak in. So let's see this in action. Again, this is brand new. I'd be very surprised if any of you have seen anything like this, because this just came out last week. So this is AI generated video, again, trained on that live person. It's AI generated content. This is coming from ChatGPT. And the voices are coming through another large language model that's generating voices with emotion in real time. Again, this is a video recording of this, but remember, this is all happening live in real time. And once this session is over, once we've got questions, anybody that's here physically in the room is welcome to talk to one of these avatars live here in person. Those of you on Zoom will have to reach out and we can make an appointment and do it over Zoom, because I can introduce these avatars to our Zoom sessions as myself or other individuals as well. Looks like this is a screenshot of the YouTube video, not the YouTube video itself. So I don't know how we can pull this up.
Do you have the link?
We do have the link. It would be in this original slide. Wait, give us 2 minutes. This will be worth the wait.
The original slide is on the desktop. So
This slide.
there's no hyperlink here.
Enable. All right, that might work.
That looks good.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
Let me then.
You still see it, so.
Okay, and then you see this version. Let's see.
Hey, Vicky, it's great to see you again. How have you been doing?
Hey there, it's great to see you too. I'm doing well, thanks for asking. How about you? How have things been?
Well, things are very exciting on the avatar front. I'm really looking forward to showing off your capabilities to a range of audiences. Could you explain a little bit about the technology that makes you work and what type of avatar you are?
Glad to hear you're excited. So, I'm a virtual character powered by advanced AI language processing. This technology enables me to understand and respond to a variety of conversational scenarios, simulating realistic dialogue. As an avatar, I'm here to help users with communication practice, offering support in various scenarios. Anything specific you'd like to know about how I work?
No, but this sounds really powerful. Can we do a role-playing exercise where I will play a doctor and you will play a patient who is concerned about your mother who is aging?
Absolutely. Let's get into it. You'll be the doctor, and I'll be the patient worried about my aging mother. Ready when you are.
Vicky, nice to see you again. It's been a couple of weeks since I've seen your mother. How is she doing?
Hi, doctor. It's good to see you. I've been quite concerned. My mother seems more forgetful lately, and she's had a couple of falls at home. I'm really worried about her health and safety. What should we do?
That sounds really concerning, and there are many things that you can do. Have you tried what we talked about a couple of weeks ago, bringing in some of her favorite movies, music, TV shows, things that bring her joy that she might remember?
Yes, we have been doing that. She enjoys watching her favorite old movies and listening to music. It lifts her spirits, but I'm not sure it's helping with her memory or preventing the falls. Do you have any other suggestions?
Vicky, let's take a break from this role play and switch roles. Can we do that?
Sure, we can switch roles. You'll be the concerned patient, and I'll be the doctor. Ready when you are.
Dr. Vicky, I'm really worried about my father's mental health. He seems very, very stressed about his wife's health as she's aging. Do you have any recommended resources that I could provide to him?
It's understandable to be concerned. I recommend looking into counseling services, which can offer individual or group therapy for caregivers. Support groups for those caring for aging spouses could also be beneficial, providing a space to share experiences and advice. Additionally, you might consider stress relief activities for your father, like light exercise or hobbies he enjoys. Would you like more information on these options?
No, Vicky, that was very, very useful. Let's take a break from this role play entirely. We could be having this conversation about anything, correct? You are an avatar that's specifically based around navigating and role-playing difficult topics. But using large language models, we could be having a conversation about virtually anything in any style. Is that all correct?
That's right. While my main focus is on role-playing and navigating challenging conversations, we can indeed chat about a wide range of topics and scenarios. If there's another subject or style you'd like to explore, feel free to let me know.
It's so powerful. Thank you so much, Vicky. Let's go out on a joke. Can you tell us all a funny joke?
Sure, here's a quick one. Why don't eggs tell jokes? They'd crack each other up.
It's really funny. Thank you so much, Vicky. We will see you later in the presentation. So that's Vicky. Blowing my mind. Yes, we've got a question in the room.
We have a question actually from the chat.
Yes,
before
please.
we move forward. How inclusive is the data and the information that informs and generates an AI like Vicky in regard to patients or people of a different race, ethnicity, SES backgrounds, and different communities?
That's what I was wondering. Was everybody able to hear that question? Should we?
Yeah.
Mikey?
I'm going to bring it forward so you can read it on screen and repeat it into the
I think
microphone.
they may be reading it. Okay. How inclusive is the data information that informs, generates? Well, yeah, I've got an answer for this. The question is, how inclusive is the data information that informs and generates this AI in regards to patients, people of different races, ethnicities, backgrounds, communities? It's an awesome question, and I think it's an awesome answer. Truly, these are large language models that can be trained across a range of diversity and experiences and backgrounds and whatever we want to prompt into them. So yeah, this could apply to anybody, individual. I mean, you could come in and put in specifics about yourself and generate an avatar who's responds to those pieces, either negatively or positively. Boy, this is not like programming anymore. This is in the back end. I'm much more of a coach. I feel I've got a bachelor's degree in film, and I didn't think I would ever be using it again until I find myself directing these performances. Like they don't say the same thing every time that you run them through this. You're giving them information and almost letting them unlock puzzles as to why they would behave a certain way. So I would never go to Vicky and say, "Hey, don't tell any egg jokes." That's not how I would do it. I would go to Vicky and explain to her why an egg joke might be inappropriate, and then she sort of teases out the logic behind all of that, and then applies it to future conversations. An interesting example I have of that is I was trying to get an artificial intelligence to generate a 3-panel comic strip. It was a little silly. It was an experiment. And could I get the AI to generate a comic strip with a joke? And the joke was that 2 toads are on a march at Washington, D.C. They're marching for civil rights. Close up of the 2 toads, and they hear in the background somebody saying something about draining the swamp. And the toads freak out because they don't realize that there's a political swamp and there's their home that's a swamp. And I could not get AI to generate 3 panels the way that I was informing. It's like panel 1 be this, panel 2 be this. But then I went to the AI and said, "Hey, can you write me a joke about a couple of toads that are at this protest march and they hear something about draining the swamp and they misunderstand it?" And it wrote the joke with the cleverness of there being 2 ways to drain the swamp. And then I told it to generate the comic strip, and it built it out. So it really took me as more of a coaching it along and not giving deliberate specific instructions as it went through. So yes, this could be created for any set of circumstances, whether that's random or prompt engineered specifically so that Vicky specifically talks to a specific audience.
Try bringing the mouse back onto your screen instead of the screen up there. So that's ways.
Right, but I'm sharing something.
Yeah. Prior screen share.
We can click over to that screen and escape.
All right.
All right, we're back on the deck. All right, thanks everybody. Again, this is experimental, both in the technology and how it's being presented. So beyond the mind blowing of Vicky, real world locations are coming from these avatars. So now we've got ultra realistic avatars that I could bring into a Zoom meeting. We could have conversations. I could bring it into virtually anywhere. But now we can actually also place these in their physical spaces where they're going to be. I remember kind of an overlying theme of all this is, can we make this education as experiential as possible? How realistic can we make this? Well, now we can take these avatars and using GPS or Wi-Fi coordinates, we can place them anywhere we like. So if you've got avatars that are focusing in on training people about intake, we can put those in intake spaces around our campus. And if you've got the software loaded up, you walk into these spaces, and avatars are sitting there waiting to interact and have conversations. Where this, for me, gets incredibly awesome. We see these avatars and they've got a background behind them. But backgrounds are not permanent, especially in the digital world. There's nothing stopping us from isolating Vicky from the background and creating a transparency, which means augmented reality glasses that you will put on and will give you, it'll replace the screen on your phone. So you'll have map directions overlaid as you're walking through campus. You'll have real-time translation of somebody speaking another language to you down in the corner, but also allows us to place videos like this in real-time locations. So you're not going to be having a conversation with Vicky inside of the web browser. You're gonna be putting on a pair of glasses, walking into intake on campus, and Vicky will be sitting there in the room, physically waiting to have these conversations. Really pushing the experientialness of this, boy, to its edges. What an exciting time. That is what I'm getting to, is this is an exciting time to be in education technology. This overlap of artificial intelligence, varieties of artificial intelligence. Remember, we were talking about a video generation going along with the voice generation, going along with the content generation, all seemingly happening at the same time. And you saw me speaking to Vicky, you heard that 1 or 2 second delay between me speaking and Vicky responding. That's a solvable problem. That's just a matter of speeding up these tokens being generated. So this will be as fluid and it's impossible to tell if it's a real person or an avatar, as you can imagine. Because a lot of these avatars are being generated on videos of live individuals. And there is a very near future where Avatar Clint jumps into your Zoom and you will not be able to tell if it is me or an avatar version of mine I've created. We're at a very exciting time in ed tech, where it's not only this artificial intelligence, but also how we consume this media. And this augmented reality that's going to put these experiences in our physical spaces. It changes all of this. I mean, this is a real solution to what I think has always been the problem of education is scale. Is that ideally learning happens in small cohorts or one-to-one. That's not logistically possible. So we build classrooms where 20 students to a teacher. We build auditoriums with 200 students to an instructor. We build open online courses where tens of thousands of people come in, and you're still dealing with a scale problem. And AI is allowing us to think about how we can approach that scale problem through these AI co-pilot agents that are out there helping learn each one of our learners, whether that's an avatar of myself or of somebody else, moving through these things and making sure that we're not teaching that 80% that we're all terrified of, because the real people that need our help are on the edges. We hardly know that they're there often. So AI will allow us to address these in really unique ways for us to teach all of the learners.
Thank you to the entire audience for being here today. I hope this presentation blew your minds. Clint, do you think they'll want to collaborate with us after this?
Well, sorry, folks. On my screen, it is Vicky talking and moving, and it is frozen up on the screen.
I think it's because we opened it again to YouTube. So you can blame that on my tech skills.
This is all, again, this is emerging technology and the bumps that come along. If you were watching my screen, you would see that Vicky was talking like she was talking in the beginning. Her voice matches her mouth, and she's really looking for collaborators in this space. She's excited, which is my last slide. So I am here to share this technology and show what we're doing and where we're going with this, but I'm always looking for new collaborators. So if you think there's a space in this or a home for these avatars and what you're teaching or learning, I'd love to have a deeper conversation with you. And I'll bring Vicky along also, and we'll see where that conversation goes. Thank you very much, and then we'll hop into questions.
Yeah, I was going to ask if we have any questions in the room before I dive into the chat.
Yeah, please.
So,
Great. Thank you very much.
thank you.
On the technical side, I'm interested on the pipeline or frameworks you use to provide that kind of functionality.
Sure. So the question was technological framework and pipeline to build these out. And I assume you're specifically talking about Vicky.
Yeah.
Okay. Because we've got two types of avatars we're talking about here, right? The scripted and this natural interactive piece. Vicky is a combination of technologies. So it's using 11 labs, which is focusing on AI around voices and creating authentic voices, and it's bringing that piece into it. It's using a couple of different image generation pieces, so I can't say which technology that is. And then it's using existing large language models, which can be OpenAI for the conversation piece. It could be Gemini, it could be Claude. We could isolate our own large language model on a server here and specifically train it to be a specific patient that doesn't have access to the outside internet or outside influences that could create hallucinations or things that we don't anticipate. And we can build that in there also. So these avatars are hypermodular. So another technology comes along that does way better AI voices. We can just plug that piece into it and it doesn't disrupt the rest of the system. We decided we don't want to use ChatGPT for the large language model. We want to use Gemini or Claude or our own. We can just reconnect that in the background. And then I'm creating, trying not to use the word programming. I'm creating knowledge bases for these avatars. So one avatar is a knowledge base all about difficult conversations and role play in these pieces. Another avatar is kind of hard-coded-ish with knowledge about AI technology. We can have a deep conversation with you about that. So on the fly, I can switch out these knowledge bases. And now Vicky's really, really great about understanding the human eyeball. Switch out her knowledge base. Now she's really, really great at understanding nursing programs. So we can swap those pieces out almost on the fly.
You talked about computing resources to actually provide that kind of smooth interaction. Are you using your own servers or are you connecting to all of those services you?
Yeah, so again, the question is more workflow. Are we hosting all of these services on our own platforms? And we're not right now. Again, these are intended to be hypothetical. So we're not at a place where we would feed any live patient data or any information in here that we wouldn't want escaping or used in a way that we don't understand. Because these large language models, we have this conversation with Vicky, and I can have a script of what I will say to her, but she will respond differently each time. So we're really needing to make sure that if we're using this as an educational tool, that we understand a little bit about how it's working underneath. Because we do want to make sure that we're not providing it information that it shouldn't have access to. So a lot of this is, right now, role-playing in hypothetical patient situations. But ask me in 6 months, I don't know what brings. That's right. Thanks. Yep.
Thanks, but we have a question online that came up, so you don't have to repeat yourself. How can we ensure that avatars, when used for patient education, respect patient autonomy, privacy, informed consent, and particularly if a patient may not fully understand that they're interacting with an AI or what the implications of that might be, rather than a human provider? You can speak a little bit. You started to talk a little bit about sort of the data privacy pieces, but some of the other ethical concerns about using AI with patients.
Right. So I think one thing in particular at this stage in avatar development, we don't want to be feeding any like live personal data into this system. I mean, that may change as we get a little bit down the road, but right now, even with the older version of avatars, it's all about creating hypotheticals, creating a fake family history and medical history. These things cannot be tied or linked to any individual's personality. So we're continuing to go down that path, even though these avatars are getting very, very realistic and healthy in here. But I think it's a communication piece. I think we're explaining what these avatars do and what they don't do, and where our guidelines are and what you can let them understand and what they can't understand. But right now, we're keeping it all under the umbrella of very, very hypothetical, because those are very, very real concerns.
I'm getting clarification on one, but I have a question.
Yes.
So I do a lot of work with refugee and immigrant communities,
Sure.
which your translation avatar piqued my interest, but we are actually working on some pieces around sort of patient empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
Which would require these all to function in different languages. And I'm curious where the technology is on being able to plug in other languages. I know our large language models are better in English, but I'm curious what the technology looks like for that and your thoughts around being able to engage patients who have different barriers to communication in this kind of work.
I've got another example of Vicky. So last week, building Vicky for the first time, and this is an upgrade from her voices. The previous version of this video where she tells that joke at the end, I asked her, can you tell me that joke in Italian? And in real time, she read me that entire joke in Italian. So she can swap between any language in real time as appropriate. So that technology is already there and available for use.
Great. We have another question in the chat, and you started to go into some of this, but I'm wondering if you can go into a little more detail. So Laura asks, what program are you using for the generated avatars? What information are you putting into the build out of the avatar? And I asked if you had already covered part of this. It's not quite. I'm trying to understand if this is a compilation of softwares or if everything is available in one place.
Right. Oh, thanks, Laura. I'm glad you're watching. Nice to see you. It is a combination of technologies. So the startup out of San Francisco building this that I built this on are called HeyGen. And they're using 11 labs for the voices. They're using OpenAI for the text base behind it. They're using a handful of video generation to build it on that and piecing it all together. So as a startup, they're using a variety of technologies that we in hand use. And as we get deeper into building these, we'll be kind of customizing those as well. As we'll be determining what language model we want to use for voices and what we want to use for the actual text behind it. So all of that is very flexible and modular as we go.
Susan, I see you have a question.
I have an actual question, yes.
All right.
So obviously, all of this is advancing very rapidly. From the perspective of, if one of us were thinking about including this in a patient education component for a research project or to help improve the informed consent process or something like that, how long does it take on average to build and train the avatar to respond well to the types of questions we might anticipate in a use case?
I can all but guarantee that generating the avatars won't be the bottleneck in that workflow.
I mean, I truly believe that, but.
Yeah, I mean, we could get one of these up and running in a week. And then testing and training and then further. Again, it's not programming. It's prompt engineering, directing in the background. Like it really feels like I'm trying to draw a collaborative performance out of these avatars as we build it. And as you build them and as you build complexity, well, then you've got that. And now we can take that complex individual and clone them and say that, but 5 times grouchier and sadder and upset about the weather. And we're not having to duplicate that weather because these are digital. So we can clone these and make small tweaks, and then we can have, 100 of these Vickies, all with little tiny nuances and tweaks that we've created, or not. I mean, it really is up to however we want to work with the technology. Very, very flexible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we are out of questions online.
Great.
I think you've answered them all. I want to thank you for coming. This is really cool work, and I think really complements a lot of the things that I think people are working on across campus and I think throughout our fields. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much.
And just a last reminder for everyone online, please take a minute to click on that evaluation link. We would love to hear your feedback and help us plan for our next seminars. So thank you. Back and forth a few times.